Welcome, Moutrons. So today's video I'm gonna do Groot, which I mentioned in my last video that I was going to be doing Groot. Hopefully. I wasn't sure if I was gonna work up the courage to do it, but then I thought about the time when I actually did K2SO. I didn't know that I was gonna do K2SO. I like really wanted to, but I was afraid to, and I just did it, and I actually loved how it turned out. So I thought maybe Groot would be the same way. Maybe not. I guess we'll find out. However, look at this. This is not related to this video in any way, but look, I made a little Starfish Prosthetic, and this is gonna be one of my things I'm gonna use during my VidCon trek. It's gonna be on my face. Can you guess what I'm going to be? I'm excited for VidCon though, and regardless, that is neither here or there. That has nothing to do with this video, so I should probably just get going and painting. So I'm gonna start painting.
Alright guys, so starting off, I took my white eyeliner pencil and just mapped out the basic design that I wanted for Groot's face. I used reference photos, like really hardcore looked at reference photos because I needed to know how his face was shaped with all the different pieces of wood, because he's made out of different slats of wood. So starting off with the coloring, I took the forehead piece because it seemed to be right in the middle of like everything. It was this part of his forehead that stuck out the most, and I started with that and covered it with a light brown body paint from Mehron. Then I took a dark brown body paint from Mehron and started adding these little lines like you would see in a piece of wood, and just lightly added it all over, as well as outlining the piece in general. Then I took these two different brown shadows, one's a little bit more red and one's a little bit more gray toned, and I used them to start shadowing around the little lines, kind of adding more detail, more wood texture to it, and blending it out into that base brown that I used. And in any parts that I felt like needed a little bit more, I would take some black eyeshadow from Urban Decay called Blackout, and I would just deepen up some of those parts, but not too heavily. Next, I took that same brown that I used as the base and started filling in the side of my face on one side. Pretty much using the same techniques, I then just took a dark brown body paint on a detailed brush, added the lines. All of these ones are really up and down lines, but once you get towards the cheek, you'll see that I'll start changing the direction. Going back into the same brown eyeshadows, they're from NYX by the way, but I don't remember their names because I took them out of their little packaging and put them in that Z palette, and I don't have the names on the back. Like a lot of eyeshadows will still have it on the back in case you do that, but the NYX eyeshadows don't. And again, I will dip into that black eyeshadow and deepen up any spots that I need to, especially around the edges of that first part that we put in, because it's going to be sitting above that bigger chunk of wood. I also detailed out around the eye section just to get a feel for his little brow bone area, I guess you could say. And now I'm just filling in the other side the same way I did with the first section. And now you can see I'm taking that brown and I'm starting to change the way that the wood grain is going. So now, because it is a side piece, it is going to be going sideways instead of up and down. And again, just taking that same eyeshadow and starting to shadow around each piece, both the browns and the black. Kind of all of this is very repetitive, so I'll be repeating myself quite a lot. Alright, and then I'm going to repeat the same thing on this side, so I don't think I need to show you the whole process. Taking a little bit of white body paint, I will be adding that to highlight some of the wood pieces, so I'm just kind of randomly dragging it in the same kind of natural wavy like motions and then dabbing it out with my fingers so it's not like a harsh white line. It'll blend into the brown and become a light brown. And I'll be heavily highlighting the very tops of his head since that is the part that's going to be sticking up. Taking a smidgen of black body paint on a detailed brush, I'm going to be adding a few darker lines to the look because the dark brown just kind of gets a little lost. So I'm not going to add too many black lines, but just a little bit here and there to give it more detail, especially outlining the first little piece I had entirely so it does look like it is the top piece. And then because I was already in the black, I just kind of added the black to the forehead to make sure that the forehead shape did look good, and just blacked it out, as well as blacking out my ears because I was tired of seeing them. And then moving on to the rest of the face, I just took that same brown and filled in all of my face, except for my eye spot for some reason. I guess I was just trying to keep it separate. And then again, taking that dark brown body paint, I'm going to be adding more of the wood grain texture, again just dragging it down my face. And then taking the different colored eyeshadows, again I'm just going to be shadowing around it, giving it more texture, and as well as taking the black around the underneath of the cheek part very heavily so it looks like that cheek section is sitting above the rest of the face. And it doesn't actually have a nose, so I kind of tried to hide my nose as best as I could with the wood grain texture, but I also didn't want to like draw too much attention to the nose with too much wood grain texture, so. And this is a very time consuming thing, so just take your time. Next I got some more of that black body paint on a detailed brush and I added his mouth. His mouth is very straight, kind of looks a little bit sad and has some cracks going off of it, so I did that to hide my mouth a little bit more because he doesn't really have lips because because he's made out of wood. So I tried to hide my lips as best as I could and just added a little sad, almost frown-like thing, as well as adding some more black lines around some of those parts that needed to have more depth. And now moving on to the eyes, I filled them with that same light brown body paint. And then I took a dark brown eyeshadow and I went around the outsides of it because the eye section is the part sitting deepest, kind of like our natural eyes would. So there's a lot of shadow going on. And I also took a little bit of black and deepened up that shadow. Then I took a black body paint on a detailed brush and I added some lines on the inside because he still has some wood grain, but you can't really see it that well, but you can still see it. So I added that in. I didn't even bother with the brown body paint because it didn't show up at all with all the shadowing for the eyes. And I also took a little bit of white body paint on a detailed brush and highlighted some sections. And of course I just repeated the same thing on the other side, just making it look as even as possible. Next I took a brush, a little stipple brush, and dipped it into some dark green, medium green, and light green body paint, kind of going back and forth depending on what I felt like it needed, and added some moss to his face because he has some moss on him, so there's a lot of it sitting on the top of his head, so I added it there, as well as where his nose would be, and I kind of used that to my advantage to kind of hide my nose a little bit more. There's some on his little cheek pieces, so I added that, and a little bit on the chin. There's not too much on the rest of his face. And now for the body. I took that same light brown body paint and filled in the neck section. Now again, I just worked in sections because it was easier for me to see. And with the neck section, he had some little, like the wood texture there was kind of going to the center of his neck, and then there was like a darker strip going all the way down, if that makes sense. So I took that dark brown body paint on a detailed brush and kind of added those lines. And just like we did with the face, I'm taking the two different colored browns and some black eyeshadow and just kind of shadowing around and adding a very dark strip down the center, like I said, as well as taking white eyeshadow and blending it in. I made sure to add some heavy shadows towards the chest piece that we'll be adding later and everything else, because that neck section seems to be the deepest section on his body. Next I filled in those, I would say, collarbone sections, I guess, with some of that light brown, and then I made the wood grain go off to the sides, and again just filled it in the same way. It's sitting above the neck section, so I kept the sides touching the neck lighter, and then it's sitting underneath the chest piece and the shoulder pieces, so then I made sure to add some black eyeshadow there to deepen it up, as well as again taking some white body paint and adding some highlights, doing all the same steps. And now for the chest pieces. So again, I took that light brown body paint and I just filled in the chest. I mean, this is seriously, I'm just repeating myself. And then I took that brown body paint and added the wood grain. The wood grain here is actually a lot lighter. There's a lot less of the wood grain because it's like big chest sections, almost like chest armor, it kind of looks like. So I added big, bold, thick lines, and then with the little lines, I mainly used the eyeshadow and didn't add any harsh lines with the body paint. But again, same steps, same things. And then also I took some of that green body paint on the stipple brush again, and I stippled it onto the chest section right there because that's where he has some moss on his chest. And then for the shoulders, I'm just gonna say same steps, same things. I used body paint and eyeshadow. I did all the same things. Very repetitive look, but I think it looks pretty good. And that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I actually had a lot of fun making it. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give me any other ideas on art related projects, and I shall see you guys next time. Bye!